Now we'll discuss David Hume's compatibilism. Remember, compatibilism is the view that determinism, even if determinism is true, we can still have free will. How does this work? For Hume's compatibilism, he believes that free will and determinism are compatible, and we actually do have free will. So this would be a soft determinism. And Hume, he tries to pull back the curtain on the whole free will debate. He thinks that the dispute over free will has been a dispute over words, right? That the incompatibilists define freedom in a certain way, the compatibilists define freedom in a different way, and they just can't seem to agree. And lurking in the background is like the fact that these two different camps have different concepts for what freedom means. So what Hume says is once we actually clearly define determinism and free will and define them properly, we'll see that obviously they're compatible. All right, so what he says is freedom is the power of acting or of not acting according to the determination of the will. That is, if we choose to remain at rest, we may. If we choose to move, we also may. This hypothetical liberty is universally allowed to belong to everyone who is not a prisoner and in chains. So the Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy identifies two parts to this definition. One, that you're able to choose a course of action, and two, you are not impeded or coerced in that choice. Okay, so number one, you're able to choose a course of action, meaning that you're able to exercise your will to bring about a course of action. I'm thirsty. I believe that there's a drink in the fridge, and so I will myself to get up off the couch and to walk over to the fridge and get a drink. I chose a course of action. No one impeded or coerced me in that choice. No one held a gun to my head. No one, held my kids ransom until I went to get a sparkling water from the refrigerator. No one said, I'll, take away all the money in your account if you don't get a drink of water, whatever. I was not impeded or coerced in that choice. It came from within me. But all of this is consistent with determinism. The example I have here is, Pat chooses to come to CSN. CSN is the College of Southern Nevada. She chose the course of action and no one forced her to come. No one blocked her from coming. And so that's all that's required for freedom. Now, this is consistent with determinism. So what Hume says is I will still be capable of raising my arm if I will to do so, even if I am necessitated in my willing and my raising. So suppose that from the creation of the earth or the creation of the universe, it was bound to occur that at this particular time, in this particular place, in this particular way, you would will to raise your hand, right? That's determinism. What Hume says is that's fully consistent with me choosing to raise my hand. So, because all that freedom requires is that you choose a course of action, that you will it, and that you weren't impeded in it or coerced. So you might will something even though that willing was determined by factors outside of your control. So if determinism is true, you couldn't have done otherwise, right? So if from the foundation of the world, it was determined that you would will to raise your hand, then you couldn't have done otherwise than raise your hand. So this means that freedom is inconsistent with a libertarian or a hard determinist account of freedom, being able to do otherwise. But even if determinism is true, you can still will things to occur, even if your willing was determined by factors outside of your control. But this is all that's needed for freedom on compatibilism. So freedom and determinism are consistent on compatibilism, given the way the compatibilists define freedom. So how does the compatibilist respond to the various arguments for incompatibilism that we considered? You have the consequence argument and you have the source argument. The consequence argument says that if the past determines the future, then no one has power over the facts of the future. This is supposed to be inconsistent with freedom, since freedom requires having certain power over the future. Well, the compatibilist just denies that freedom requires having this power. So the compatibilist would say, did you will it? Yes, then you were free, so long as you weren't impeded or coerced. So it doesn't require having this sort of power to do this or that, but just simply a power to will. So they would just reject the whole premise of the consequence argument that freedom requires having power over the future. What about the source argument? The source argument says that we act freely only if we are the ultimate sources of at least some of our choices. Well, the compatibilists simply deny this. Right? We don't need to be the source of our choice. Our choices might be sourced in, the state of the universe at the Big Bang. But we act freely if we choose something, even if that choice is determined. So it was determined from the Big Bang onwards that we would raise our hand at a certain time, but we were free in raising our hand because we willed to raise our hand. Okay, so that is Hume's compatibilism. In the next lecture, we'll look at an argument for compatibilism.